Welcome back to Soulful and Sober. I want to tell you prior to even going on about this episode, y'all, my hair, for those that can see the camera, is wild. Remember when I lived in Florida? But I lost a lot of hair on my top of my head, and my hairstylist is like, "Oh, you have new hair growth coming in." And I'm like, "What?" And it's probably due to stress and hormones, but I want to share that because I'm telling you, this hormone thing is crazy. I'm in my 40s and I'm starting to have some little subtle things happen. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, which has absolutely no relevance. Well, kind of some relevance with stress today. We're going to talk a little bit about the nervous system and willpower. I am doing a presentation on emotional eating. So if you don't know, part of my journey is, um, well, was not was, is, you know, I stopped dieting. I stopped, um, doing those types of things. And I really worked on healing my relationship with food and also myself. I hear a lot of times, and I talked about this in a previous episode, is people go from alcohol to sugar. Same thing. The biology, once you learn all these stuff, is astounding. So my whole point of this is this emotional eating presentation I'm doing. I'm like super, super shocked on how similar they are. Before I start talking about the nervous system, I really just want to put a plug in about willpower. People think willpower is the thing, but when you learn about the nervous system and you learn about the biology of all this, I am telling you, you will remove the shame, because you're going to be like, oh my goodness. Because if you just try to stop drinking and do nothing else, it will feel like a struggle. I am telling you, if you don't understand this stuff or you don't have help to understand this stuff, it will be heavy. Because you have to look at, like, I see three factors. One is the biology, meaning blood sugar, sleep, your hormones, all the things that make your body work. What you eat, what you do, what you think, all the things, the sleeping, it matters, and it matters with cravings. And it also matters how you consume sugary things and salty things. Also, if your willpower is in your prefrontal cortex, when you get stressed out, when you have high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, your brain goes offline, which makes so much sense why we start the day off with trying to be good and then we don't be good. And this is just one part of it. And I don't want to say don't be good. I don't think I even like that language. We find ourselves doing things we don't like. And we're mad at ourselves and we don't simply understand. We just try to stop drinking. And I don't think you can just stop drinking. I think you have to learn this stuff. And without further ado, let's go into today's topic. And before I go into today's topic, I think it's important to understand that willpower isn't a you problem. It's literally part of our biology. That when we have certain things happen to us, our body, our brains have learned a certain way to cope. And that might be alcohol, that might be food. Those are the things, even scrolling, gambling, all these things promote dopamine, and also even dopamine before you do them. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of dopamine because it's important, but it's just part of it. And I think that there are so many different players with these things that it's so important to understand it. But let's talk about the nervous system. So I have a whole chapter in my book, so I would really, really highly recommend you get my book, and I will link it below, because part of my journey was learning about this, and I'm still learning about this stuff because it's important, because I don't just see it with alcohol, it's in other facets of our lives. It's not just the drinking, it's how we deal with certain things. And I also want to tell you that there's nothing wrong with us when we have stress. And there is no, again, no shame and no blame on the person. We all have backgrounds and different things that we grew up with, and we've used a lot of protective mechanisms, maybe to survive certain things when we were a child, that have served us, and they don't serve us anymore. So stress isn't the problem. We are never not going to have stress. But what happens when you have high levels of cortisol slash stress and you become dysregulated, meaning you go into fight or flight or freeze? Freeze is more like, kind of like, I want to say playing dead, like the unmotivated, right? And I'm going to go over all this. And the fight and flight is obviously go, anger, like we gotta you need to mobilize. Like there needs to be something happening because your body's preparing to fight or flight. It's preparing for something. What can cause this? Many things. Could be hormones, can be how you think about things in the past and trauma. And also too, I want to really make note that our upbringing is important too. So if were even told emotions were bad and emotions don't feel safe, having an emotion might not feel really safe to you and might literally put you in one of these. It might even put you in freeze because it doesn't feel safe to have those things. And, we can have high levels of cortisol for so many things. And the key isn't like, I can't have stress. I can't do this. It's noticing when you're in high levels of stress and bringing yourself down back into a regulated state. So the parasympathetic is when we rest and digest. So it's more the flow state, the relaxed state, right? Like right now I feel pretty good and relaxed, but if something happens to me, I might jump into the sympathetic where I might have either the fight, flight, or freeze response. And when I have those responses, it's not necessarily, oh, I can't have these. It's noticing them and then what do you need? Because if we just remove alcohol without a plan, or even emotional eating, or any of these things that were there to help us deal with these stressors, it's going to feel pretty bad. So you have to understand all these things, I think, in order to really move forward. And your body has probably learned that alcohol, and I'm saying food because some of us turn to sugar and salty things after we stop drinking, and we don't understand why. And there's lots of reasons why. And I'll do a whole episode on the biological stuff, but I want to just kind of keep this to nervous system. But your nervous system really truly learns that this has been the thing that has helped you, even if it doesn't really help you. And it's a reward thing. It's also your body has maybe learned alcohol equals relief or excitement or something where it's like, ah, I need that. And it's learned that. And so, you might have experienced this. You might do other things like scrolling or distracting, numbing, calming, soothing, which can be again with alcohol, food. So it's not shocking that people go from one thing to the other, or like me, have always had emotional eating things and it was louder once I stopped drinking because once things kind of went a little bit haywire in my life, I went back to what my body and nervous system knew that could help soothe it. And again, these things might have helped you in the past, right? Maybe not alcohol, but like maybe it did. Maybe when you were a little bit older. Not everybody has the same exact story. Some people start drinking after a traumatic event. I've heard losing their kids, divorce, those types of things. So it's not always the same thing for everybody. I didn't, drink at 9 years old necessarily, but my body did learn over time that alcohol's fun, it's relaxing, but it's not truly those things because it really didn't produce those things. So let's talk about the fight flight. And I do have, I'm looking down at something, so I don't want to forget because I tend to kind of veer off in la la land and just kind of talk a lot because I get super excited. So when you're in the fight or flight, the sympathetic state, and I want to again stress, the goal is not to have no stress. That's not even realistic. The goal is to notice when you are in these states, to notice maybe what you need to do to regulate. And it could be something different for everybody. This isn't a one-stop shop. So if you're in the fight flight, you will feel anxious, wired, but tired. You might be overthinking, irritable, restless. You cannot sit still. Urging cravings increase your hypervigilant. You also might want to do all the things to distract yourself from what you're actually doing, or feeling. So sometimes feelings again don't feel safe. So if I keep doing all the things when I'm in this stress state, this is safe. This is actually safer than feeling these things because it feels really unsafe to do those things. So that is why really getting to know somebody is important. This is the work I do because it's not straightforward when you stop drinking or eating. It's not. It's not. And so again, the behaviors will be drinking to take the edge off. You don't want to feel this way. You feel so horrible. You have muscle tension. Your body, if you listen to your body always has a story. I'm sure everybody has heard your body keeps a score. It's true. People come with tension, and I still get it from time to time, but not as much. Tension headaches because like when I would lift weights, heavy weights, and then when I would have really stressful days, I keep things like in my shoulder area. And so it wasn't just like a pain, it was truly an emotion that was living there that needed to be released. You might have shallow breaths, oh, sorry, the behaviors, yes. The body experiences shallow breaths, muscle tension, racing thoughts, feeling on all the time. And then common behaviors or drinking to take the edge off. You might be even emotional eating or binging, overworking, people pleasing, controlling everything, doom scrolling. Control is a huge thing because we want predictability because predictability feels safer. When we don't have it, we sometimes feel unsafe. But life is not predictable. Believe me, I've been dealing with this lately. So really, your body wants to protect you through action. Let's do something. And it might be something that's not healthy. I'm going to go to freeze and then we'll talk about things you can do. So freeze is the shutdown, freeze, collapse. So um, it feels like numb, exhausted, disconnected, hopeless, frozen, unmotivated. I don't care anymore. Feeling hard to access emotions. You can feel pretty numb. So what do we do in these things? Some people might isolate. You might stay in bed. You might be shutting down, binge watching TV for hours, giving up on goals, emotional numb eating. And obviously you could be drinking as well, not texting people back. Your body might feel heavy, low energy, brain fog, flat emotions, feeling stuck. Sometimes when people tell me they feel stuck, I'm like, oh, they're experiencing something right now because our thoughts will create these states too. Your thoughts about something, and I'm not judging it as bad or good because they're not, they're just thoughts. But there's an emotion attached to those. It's the emotion you're feeling that is causing sometimes throwing ourselves into the sympathetic nervous system. So when we notice these things, that's the key. Because it's not just about like, I'm gonna think positive, I'm never gonna have bad thoughts. That is just not even realistic ever. So protection feels in the frozen state, protection feels like doing these things. It feels safer to do nothing. Um, you know, and fight flight says something is wrong, do something now, where freeze says this is too much, we have to shut down. And so you might be bouncing between both depending on what's going on. And again, I want to stress that it can come from past trauma, how you protected yourself, in your childhood. It can come from work, but there's always a deeper reason to these things. So when people tell me, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed," and they go really into what overwhelm looks like and where it feels in their body and how it plays out in their life and what it does to them, because high levels of cortisol like this will affect your sleep, will affect your eating, will affect your drinking. Your cravings will be higher because stress that's what it does. Also stress, like, and I mean high levels, not getting yourself back down to the parasympathetic, the relaxed state. You will have GI issues, sleep issues, like I mentioned. Also, you will crave more sugary foods and likely alcohol as well because it provides that fast energy. So you'll see that. And again, this makes perfect sense also with the habit loop that happens that we're not going to get into why people reach for food too, or they reach for food more when they stop drinking. And your body will slow down in the fight flight. It's preparing for something. It needs to conserve energy. We can go into this with the way we think about dieting. There's so many reasons why this is important to know this stuff. So even if you go into these states, it's starting to figure out how to recognize and then work on how you need to get out of it, and then what's the deeper reasons behind it. I do hypnotherapy, by the way, now, and it's really, really the most fascinating thing when you talk to somebody and you find out where the emotion is in their body and you find out what it is. Because a lot of times it's fear, it's sadness, it's all these things that are happening, anger that are living in your body, and you can go to fight flight, right? So it's just to me, it's really important because when you look at things from a different lens, it explains cravings. It explains why we do what we do because no one, I don't really feel like no one wants to, wake up regretting the night before, right? No one wants to eat 54 cookies. They don't. That's why they get help. It's why we don't want to do those things because it's not feeling good. But even shame and the thoughts the day after can put you in this state. This is why it's so important to understand it. So let's say you do feel overwhelmed. You're starting to feel anxious. You feel wired. Ugh, I have so much to do. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much going on. I feel lonely. I feel sad. I feel really scared. I feel so anxious. Whatever emotion you drink, you eat, whatever to cope with this emotion, to cope with what you're feeling. And you might then crash, and then you might even numb and shut down because you feel so horrible. Shame, repeat cycle. And alcohol and food, they do mimic the soothing, right? Your body doesn't know the difference between real dopamine and this other stuff. And it also, like I said, it anticipates you doing this. So it starts spewing out dopamine. So this is why I think it's utterly important to understand all the facets when you stop drinking, because you learn that willpower is a bunch of crap. Because without knowing these other things, how do you change? And also, when you stop drinking, people, like I said, you go to other things. It's not uncommon for people to feel that alcohol when they leave, when it leaves and you stop drinking, you're like, why don't I feel better? I feel physically great. And I've talked about this before, but emotionally, I don't feel the greatest because there's still something that's unresolved or something that's going on that you probably have to work through and get different coping mechanisms. So, speaking of that, if you are in the fight flight, if I told you to meditate, and I swear I wish I would have known this stuff before. Meditation might not even work. I'm telling you, because if you're in the go, 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 being turned on and you want to fight and you gotta flee, sitting in a meditation absolutely might not work for you. You might need a walk, work out, do something physical to get it out of your body. It might be rage journaling, but meditation might not work. So I think it's figuring out what works for you, right? In dorsal, in the freeze state, you meditation might work. And I'm talking about like maybe a guided meditation to get you back centered, to get you out of our thinking heads. I mean, this is part of it, getting out of this logical head and getting more into our bodies. It might be meditation. It might be a bath. It might be petting your animal. There's so many different things you can do to kind of get yourself regulated. It might be calling a friend. It might be breath work. And there's different kinds of breath work. So there are breath works that could work more for the fight flight and more for the free state. So there's like more like different breathing that's a little bit more um it's a little bit more amped. So I think when you do feel these things, I think make a list of how you felt when you meditated, when you went for a walk, when you did a 5 minute workout, right? Because I think this is the key. And also, too, there is beauty in getting help and actually understanding this stuff at a much deeper level. Because I can tell you, there's so much I didn't know. And as I learn more and more and more, it's not just about doing one thing perfectly. People can list the three things to do when you stop drinking, and you might try those, and then they don't work, and you're like, well, what the heck? And lots of things work. Lots of things work, but also you will still experiencing stressful states when you stop drinking, because that's just our lives. And so it's important to understand this because once we stop drinking, if we still feel dysregulated, and I'm just on a side note, drinking actually increases your cortisol levels. So the mecca of stress. So not only do we have real life stress and also perceived stress. Sometimes the stress we perceive is so dangerous, but it's not really dangerous. So again, you might get a work email that throws you off the deep end. Your body sees it at absolute like crapshoot, like this person's in danger. When you're not going to die from a letter from your boss. So this is what the body does. It prepares for you. It's there for survival. This is millions of years of this happening. This is when our ancestors and in primal times, the primitive brain, this is what happened. This was survival. This is what the brain, your body is supposed to do. However, it doesn't serve us often in most case scenarios because we aren't dying, right? We're not running from a saber-toothed tiger. We are like needing to survive our lives. And this is why this is important stuff. And I'm really hoping this was helpful. So, this is what I'm doing. Instead of saying I have to meditate, okay, let me tune into my body. What do I think I need? Keep in mind, sleep is really important. You might just need to go to bed. Just go to bed. You might need to go to bed. You might be exhausted. When don't get enough sleep, because lack of sleep does increase your cortisol levels and increase your hunger and cravings, by the way, I really don't feel my best. I just don't. And so prioritizing sleep has been a top priority for me. This doesn't mean we're doing everything perfect, but I think just kind of reevaluating things and making one small change or adding something. I actually think you should add something because it feels better. So when I'm in this stress state or I'm in this shutdown state, what will help me get out of it? Right? Because it might be different each time and it might be different for each person. Someone that doesn't like to meditate might tell me I'm not meditating. And it's not saying, oh, well, you have to meditate. No, that's okay. If you don't find that soothing and you don't find that's getting you back into a rest and digest and happy state, don't do it. Do something else. But you need to do something else. And I think figuring that out is key. And if there is more information you want, always let me know. I'm so excited to talk about these topics because I think they're so needed. And it's been really a huge part of my journey as well.